Hello and welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I am your host, Vicky Midwood speaking, and I am recording this quite early in the morning because it is so hot still here in the UK. But I've had a lovely week of great conversations, and this is what inspired me to talk about this topic today. It's all about why self-respect has to come before self-love. Now, if you are somebody who's into the world of reinvention and self-development and learning and stepping into your purpose and becoming the best person that you can become, it doesn't matter what book you pick up. It doesn't matter what podcast you listen to. It doesn't matter the therapist that you may talk to. What all of them, and me included to some degree, are trying to get you to understand, and I had to do this too, is that unless you actually love yourself, it's really difficult to do the things that you need to do to help yourself to feel and think and function better. However, I hated myself. I had no clue what self-love meant. Even the term, it felt icky, it felt selfish, it felt just like something that was a million miles away from anything that I'd even want, right? I didn't like myself, let alone love myself. So there is a massive leap and there's a massive expectation. And when I hear, the advice being, well, treat yourself with love, when you can't even connect to that, it's a big ask. And it's no wonder that people struggle and think then that, well, there must be something wrong with me. So I think that this is a really important topic. It was for me, and it definitely is for the majority of people that I work with. All of the people that I work with, in fact, I would say everybody, different ages, different lives, different problems, but underneath it, all of them have a similar pattern, and it's not a lack of motivation and it's not a lack of knowledge, but it's about a lack of self-respect. And I'm going to explain what that is in a second. We hear, as I say, a lot about self-love, choose yourself, know your worth. But if you're not there yet, it feels impossible. And so I think the key to it that I've really kind of discovered, and the more I talk about it, the more I absolutely know that this is how it did start for me. I just didn't necessarily name it and label it as such, but it has to start with self-respect, because when you start to respect yourself, you create trust. Now, I touched on this on my last solo episode, because if you don't trust yourself, you're always going to be questioning your decisions. You're always going to be feeling in a sense of some sort of anxiety, uncertainty, unfamiliarity, and that gets you questioning everything about who you are, what you're doing. We start then taking things to black and white thinking, right and wrong choices, and it gets complicated. But if you bring it back to self-respect, it actually makes things so much easier. And that is what I am all about, is helping you to make changes that feel doable, that feel easy, but that will actually change how you think, feel, and function. So what I want to do actually is ask you some questions and be honest with yourself, because there's no point not being. There's nobody else there, and there's nobody listening to the thoughts that you are thinking except you, which is why it's important to be honest with you, because you are always listening to you. And this is key, and it's pertinent to the question. So here we go. How do you speak to yourself when no one else is listening? What do you say when you make a mistake? What do you say when you knock something over? What do you say when you overeat? What do you say when you drink more than you said you were going to do? What do you say when you decide to not go to the gym even though you told yourself you were going to go? What do you say to yourself when work doesn't go to plan? What do you say to yourself when you snap at your kids or at your parents or at your partner? And would you ever speak to somebody else the way that you speak to yourself in your own head? Or maybe out loud as well. And if the answer to that is no, why do you think it's acceptable to speak to yourself in the way that you do? Because actually, we're attacking ourselves. Now, you may not think about it like that, but it absolutely is. If you were consistently spoken to by somebody else in the way that you speak to yourself in your own head, it would feel like you were being attacked. Fair enough to say? See, most people don't even realize they're doing it. And this is the thing. Sentences like, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, I'm just useless. I'll never change. I've ruined everything. I'm hopeless. Right? Nothing works out for me. I'm pathetic is one I hear quite a lot. I'm so lazy. I'm weak. Now, the more you say that, the more your brain hears it, the more you repeat those sentences, the more it gets accepted as a truth. And remember, I've said this multiple times and I will keep on saying it because sometimes we need to hear the same thing thousands of times before it finally lands. Your brain doesn't care what's true. It just cares what's repeated. And Psychology 101 is your thoughts are not facts and your thoughts are not true. But the more you repeat them, the more you will genuinely believe that they are. So have a little think about that. And a lot of the time we've been taught this stuff, but not knowing that we've been taught this stuff because we heard it. We heard it going on around us. We see it. We see it in films. We read it in books. We see it within families, within friendship groups. It happens everywhere. So it's no surprise that we kind of do think it's acceptable. But when you really think about it, if you could sit opposite somebody in a chair and just allow them to speak to you in the way that you speak to yourself, I think you'd agree it doesn't feel good. It does feel like you are being attacked. And if you are doing that to yourself, it means that you're not respecting who you are and how you are showing up. So what I kind of want to do is like look at self-worth, self-esteem, and self-respect, because these kind of terms, they sort of get a bit messy, don't they? They get a bit mixed up and they get used interchangeably. But actually, I don't look at them as the same thing. I think self-worth is what you actually believe about yourself. Do I believe that I matter? Do I believe that I deserve kindness? Do I believe that I have value without having to constantly prove it? And many of us learned, hands up, me included, that love has conditions. It has to be earned. You've got to be good. You've got to be helpful. You have to achieve more. You have to work harder. You have to prove yourself. You have to earn your place. You have to not be difficult, and you have to not upset people. And if you do all of those things, then you will be shown love and appreciation and you'll be validated. So that's what I think self-worth is. It's about what you believe about yourself. Now, self-esteem is more about how we evaluate ourselves, and it often depends on results. So it's kind of, and this is why I'm not necessarily a fan of goals, because goals unachieved can really affect our self-esteem. So what did I mean? What do I mean by that? Well, did I perform well in that test? Did people approve of me? Did I achieve enough? Did I lose the weight I said I was going to do? Did I show up at the gym the amount of times I said I was going to do? And the problem is that if your self-esteem depends on achievement, you're going to make that connection with self-worth as well. And every time things get harder and you don't do what you said you were going to do, if you believe that you didn't perform well, if the results show that actually you did only go to the gym once when you said you're going to do 3 times, then your self-esteem is going to dip and life is going to get harder the lower it goes. So just to recap, self-worth is more about what you believe about yourself. Do you believe you matter? Do you believe you deserve kindness? Do you believe you deserve love? Self-esteem is about how you evaluate yourself. Did I perform well? Did people approve of me? Did I do enough? And then self-respect, well, self-respect is different. It's about how you choose to treat yourself. It's not about what you believe. It's not about how you feel. It's about how you actually behave. Do you keep promises to yourself? This is such a key one, and so many of us do not. We promise ourselves that I will take a break after this, but then we don't, because we run a story in our head that we haven't achieved enough, or it took as long as than expected, or we've done something wrong, and therefore now we don't deserve, we're not allowed to take a break. Do you rest when you actually need to? Or do you still keep those stories going that you can sleep when you're dead? How many times have you seen that as a meme, which is ridiculous? Rest isn't just a nice thing to do. Rest is essential to how your brain and body function, and how they function will determine how you feel, and how you feel will determine how you think. So respect also means setting boundaries. Do you have clear boundaries for yourself as well as for others? And do you keep them? Do you apologize all of the time? Because if you are consistently apologizing, then you're basically saying, there's something wrong with me. I don't deserve your respect. I don't respect myself because I'm apologizing for myself all of the time. Do you actually feed yourself properly? Do you honor your hunger? Do you, on the other hand, stop when you've had enough? Or do you ignore the signals and not respect what your body's telling you and keep stuffing food in and keep overeating because there's a story going on in your head, but you're ignoring the physical signals? And do you say no to a request that actually doesn't work for you? Or do you say yes because it's easy and you don't want to upset somebody? Now, this isn't about confidence. This is about respect. This is about honoring what your body's telling you, what you actually really want to do. Because so many of us know instinctively, if somebody asks us, would you like to go so-and-so? You know immediately what the honest answer is. But oftentimes we squash that down and we do the expected thing, or we do the thing that our brain tells us will on the outside look good so that we will maybe get praise or be validated or be seen to be a good girl. So we allow expectations of others to take precedence over respect for ourselves. So why am I twittering on about this? Why is it important? Why does it matter? Well, I see people week in, week out who would never dream of speaking to people in the way that they speak to themselves. They will support everybody else. They will encourage everybody else. They will forgive everybody else. But themselves? No. They just won't. They are so hard on themselves. There's constant criticism, constant judgment, constant pressure to do more, to be better. Comparison gets a massive window in their lives, and they try and motivate themselves through self-attack. And it doesn't work. That's why they're coming to me, because if it did work, they wouldn't need my help or anybody's help. But it doesn't work. Punishing yourself to perform is not the best way. Attacking yourself to try and like yourself doesn't work. And attacking yourself is not respect. And so the people that I work with who may come to me with a food issue or an alcohol issue or an anxiety issue or depression or just not feeling good in themselves and just not really knowing why, usually having gone to a number of coaches or therapists and gotten various different types of help, but what they've never done is looked at the hidden patterns, because it's not about food or alcohol or work or relationships, but they are where the patterns show up. The real pattern is this: I have to earn the right. I have to earn love. I have to earn success. I have to earn saying no. I have to earn taking care of myself. No, you don't. That's a story that you've kept on telling yourself, and it's not true, and it never was. But you keep on repeating it, and therefore you believe that it's true. And this is why it's so important to take on board the fact that you don't need confidence to put in boundaries. You don't need confidence to make change. And I don't think that it's a confidence thing at all, because confidence comes through doing. You don't get motivated by sitting on the couch. You get motivated by getting off the couch and moving your body and taking action. Right? Confidence is the same. You don't get confident by sitting and thinking about being confident. Confidence grows when you treat yourself with respect. Self-trust grows with every boundary that you put in place, with every promise that you keep to yourself. Every time you stop abandoning yourself just to make somebody else feel comfortable. Because every single time you do that, you're telling your brain, I can trust myself. And self-trust changes everything. But to be able to really create that self-trust, it has to start with respect. And respect doesn't mean that you're better than. It doesn't mean that you're less than either. It just means that you are as important. Your needs, your wants, your desires are equal to others. And when you can really start practicing tuning into your body, respecting your needs, that gut instinct, that intuitive first answer, that is the one that we often ignore and push down, because our head then comes in with a different story and we believe this over this. Not a good thing to do. And this is why learning to connect and learning to understand what your body is telling you is such an important part of how I help my clients, because we live in this body. Your head and your brain live in your body, and the signals that your body tells you are information to the brain. The brain thinks it's smart and it thinks that you can solve stuff just by thinking. No. Things change when you do. Things change when you take action, because action creates a different feeling, and then a different feeling will help you to change your thoughts. Now, sometimes it starts with language, the language that you use, the saying no without an explanation or a massive dialogue around your reasons or excuses or whatever word you want to use about why you're saying no. Just allowing you say to yourself to just say, no, actually, that doesn't work for me. I'll get back to you. Instead of going, no, that doesn't work for me because I've got this, and then I promised that I'd do this, and so. The person who you're saying that to actually doesn't care, right? They just heard the no. That's all they need to know. End of story, move on. We do this explanation because we have this idea that if I can just help you to understand me, then I will be worthy, I will be valuable, you will still like me. But by doing that, you're not respecting yourself. And when you respect yourself, you will increase your self-trust. And when you increase your self-trust, by default, you will feel more confident and happier in who you are being and the choices that you are making. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and this is maybe something that you can take away and journal on if you feel that it works for you. I'm going to put these questions in the description, and they will be in the show notes as well if you want to come back to them. And again, be honest, there's no point being anything but with yourself. Where in life are you abandoning yourself? Is it at work? Is it in your friendships? Is it at home? Is it with your partner? Where are you criticizing yourself? Is it all of the time? Is it in one specific area? Is it about your performance? Is it about your looks? Is it about how you deal with parents or siblings, right? Be honest. What promises have you broken to yourself just this week? And again, please do this without judgment and without criticism. You're doing this almost like you're stepping back and observing of, okay, let me just look at what is going on. Whose approval are you still trying to earn? Now, I know for me that without a doubt, it was my dad's. And I had to do a lot of work on that because I never felt that I had his approval when I was a child. And I took that right into my adulthood without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm not saying you need to go into therapy and go right down into deep analysis, but just be honest. Whose approval are you trying to earn? If somebody spoke to themselves the way that you do, if somebody you loved, if you heard them saying the stuff out loud to themselves the way that you do, what would you say to them? This is an interesting one, and spend a little bit of time on that. Again, be honest. And then ask yourself, when you've answered that, why don't you deserve the same respect? Now, I'm not suggesting you do these and answer these as you're listening to this. You might want to put it on pause and answer each question as I ask them, and that's cool, or save them for later. But here's the thing. I'm going to kind of set you a bit of a practical challenge if you're open to it. I'm not asking you to love yourself, right? That is just too big of a jump from where you're at and where the majority of my clients were at. It certainly was a massive jump. And, do I love myself now? Yes. But it's taken me 21 and a bit years to be able to say that without any feelings coming up that I don't particularly want to have. It's taken a long time, in other words, for me to get there. So I'm not asking you to love yourself. And I'm not even asking you to like yourself to start with, if that feels too much of a leap. But I am asking you to stop attacking yourself. I am asking you to just notice every criticism, every insult, every impossible standard. And I'm asking you to pause and replace it with one question. What would respecting myself look like right now? That's the question. You might want to write that down. What would respecting myself look like right now? Sometimes it's going to mean saying no. Sometimes it will mean that you do sit down and you take a break and you eat lunch slowly and without distractions, chewing it properly, tasting the food and stopping when you've had enough. Sometimes it's going to mean going to bed, right? And leaving the stuff until the next day. Sometimes it's going to be asking for help. Sometimes it's going to be leaving a situation or an environment and just literally extricating you from it. But ask yourself that question. What would self-respect, or what would respecting myself look like right now? And then taking action on it. Because if there's one thing that I would like you to remember from this episode, is that you don't have to love yourself to stop attacking yourself. You can start with self-respect. And I honestly do believe wholeheartedly self-care starts with self-respect. And self-respect starts the moment you stop treating yourself like the enemy. That is where lasting change begins. I hope that this has been helpful to you folks. If it has, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a subscribe if you haven't done already. And if you think that this would be helpful to somebody else, please do pass this episode on to them. Because we are living in a world now where so many people don't feel good in their own skin, but they just carry on doing the same stuff. They don't know why they're doing it. They know it's not making them happy, but they don't know how to change, because the story is change feels too hard and I just don't have the bandwidth or the energy to do it. And I'm hoping that this episode is going to help you see things differently and recognize it starts with baby steps. It begins with self-respect. And I'm going to leave it there, folks. I'll leave you with this as I always do. We only have one life as far as we know and one body. So please look after it, because it is looking after you. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.